Patriotic comrades, when I first covered Jamaican politics, I thought politics was boring. Then I saw a speaker cut off members mid-question and I realized, hold on, that humanizes you. By the end of this video, you will see why the opposition walked out of Parliament, why the speaker was slammed for shutting them down, and why this could be the turning point that the PNP has been waiting for. What looked like another calm parliamentary session turned into a full-blown showdown, and I'm going to break it all down for you right now. Patriotic comrades, picture this. It's a relatively boring update in Parliament. The government's preparing for Tropical Storm Melissa. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management on full alert. And Minister Matthew Samuda steps up to deliver a statement. But then the trigger. MPs from the opposition ask tough questions. Questions about landslides, outstanding contract payments. Questions Mr. Samuda didn't want to fully answer, or that the speaker prevented. The roadblock. Patriotic comrades, here's where the conflict erupts when the MP for St. Mary Southeastern, Christopher Brown, begins to ask about unpaid contractors and landslides. His microphone is cut off. His microphone is cut repeatedly. Speaker Juliet Holness insists the questions aren't in keeping with the standing orders because they're not directly about the statement. The opposition benches rise up. Julian Robinson, Mark Golding, they all stand together and say, no, this is exactly about what's happening under your nose. Then the mic goes silent and boom, the walk out. When the mic goes silent, the people should get louder. Do you agree it's time to demand new parliamentary rules for fairness? Comment yes if you stand for transparency in the comments below. Enter the villain. Patriotic comrades, in our story, the villain isn't a mustache twirling cartoon, though the drama does make you want to raise popcorn. The villain is unhealthy concentration of power, procedural behavior that looks more like suppression than governance, and the appearance of the speaker acting more like a defender of the government than an independent arbiter. And yes, I'm talking about Juliet Holness, married to the Prime Minister Andrew Holness. But now the Speaker of the House. Many argue, including the opposition, that this duality strains the core principle of independence in Parliament. The PNP argued, how can the Speaker be truly impartial when her husband leads the government? Mark Golding didn't hold back. Patriotic comrades, be honest. Was Juliet Holness fair or foul in this parliament clash? Type fair if you think she did her job, or foul if you think she crossed the line. Let's see where Jamaicans really stand in the comments below. The heroes move. Patriotic comrade, enter the PNP and their candidate Paul Buchanan. In the 2025 general election, he challenged Andrew Holness in St. Andrew Central. While Holness won, Buchanan didn't bow out Quietly, he challenged the result before the constituted authority and now is or could be seeking judicial review. If you want more on that, hit the link in the description and subscribe. Why does this matter? It shows the PNP isn't simply accepting the status quo. They're pushing on multiple fronts: electoral challenge plus parliamentary accountability. This walkout is part of the strategy, part of the story of rising tension. Mark my words, this walkout is just the beginning. What do you think happens next? Judicial review sparks protest, or Juliet doubles down? Drop your predictions in the comments below. Why it matters: democracy on the line. Patriotic comrades, an apparently small procedural moment, mic off, take your seat, walk out, can actually trigger big questions. Is Parliament still functioning as a check on the government, or has it become a rubber stamp? If the opposition can't ask relevant questions because of standing orders, what's the point of representation? And if the speaker is perceived to side with the government, where does that leave accountability? Mark Golding didn't mince words. He called the behavior undemocratic and said the people of Jamaica must take it seriously. Mike cut when opposition MPs can't even ask questions. That's not democracy. That's control. Do you think the speaker should apologize or resign? Let's hear it in the comments below. Patriotic comrades, you may be thinking, okay, so walkout happened. End of story, right? Wrong. Here's the twist. The PNP is not done. The election challenge, the judicial review, the shifting seat numbers in the next election, all of this is in motion. By walking out now, the opposition has signaled we're going to make this loud. We're going to make this count. Here's the question I'll leave you with. Could this moment be the spark that lights a broader movement to weaken the JLP's hold on power? Stay tuned, because in the next video I'm going to dive into the judiciary, the election petition, and how exactly Paul Buchanan's challenge could reshape the map. But first, let's wrap up what happened today. If you actually watched the full video, I dare you to comment one thing the speaker could have done differently. Let's see who's really paying attention. Here's a summary of the highlights and the key points. Quick recap. Patriotic comrades, quick rundown of the 5 key takeaways. 1. The opposition walked out after their questions were repeatedly silenced. Huge red flag for parliamentary democracy. 2. The Speaker Juliet Holness came under heavy fire for allegedly favoring the government side and failing to act impartially. 3. The PNP via Paul Buchanan and others are making moves both inside and outside Parliament to change the game. 4. The procedural argument. Questions not in keeping with statement. Might be technical, but its impact is political and structural. 5. What looks like a parliamentary tiff could be the beginning of a much larger shift in Jamaica's political landscape, especially ahead of future elections. My patriotic comrades, PNP supporters, sound off loud and proud in the comments below. This is your parliament, your voice. Let's see who runs the comment section. Patriotic comrades, let's address the elephant in the room. The Speaker of the House is acting more like a defender of the government than an independent arbiter. The role of the Speaker of the House is to actually be act impartial. So even though the Speaker of the House is from the government, the role as Speaker is to be balanced, fair, and neutral. But that I know what we have in the form of a Juliet Holness. What we actually have is an unhealthy concentration of power, an actual centralization of power within the government in Parliament. So that consolidation of power with Andrew Holness as Prime Minister and his wife as House Speaker sets a bad precedent for good governance, because now what we actually have is suppression of asking relevant and legitimate questions. It's censorship and silence your opposition by cutting off their mic when them ask or talk things where you don't want to hear. Censorship. And this is them, the JLP, acting like a dictator as usual. You see me? This is a dictatorship style of censorship in Parliament, because them a censor the opposition because they don't want the opposition to talk. And this is why Mark Jefferson Golden, from the outset, after Holness them allegedly won the so-called election victory on September 3rd, Mark Golden warned them and said, me no want Juliet Holness as House Speaker. And it was for this very reason and for things like Demia. Cause look what she just do. And this is the reason why Marky G never want she to be reinstated or reappointed as House Speaker. How can the House Speaker be truly impartial when her husband leads the government? That I question what we are asked. That are the answer what we want to know. So patriotic comrades, in a response, Speaker of the House of Representatives Juliet Holness has described the walkout by opposition members during the sitting as a breach of parliamentary decorum and an action that undermines the interest of the people of Jamaica. That's what Juliet Holness say. But the walkout was led by opposition leader Mark Golding after he was cut off mid-statement by Juliet Holness. So Marky G get up just to query why opposition members were not being allowed to ask questions in relation to a statement made by Environment Minister Matthew Samuda regarding the approaching tropical storm, which could impact the island. So how you talk about parliamentary decorum, a breach of parliamentary decorum, when you cut off opposition leader Mark Golding mid-statement, you cut off Julian Robinson mid-sentence, and you cut off Christopher Brown mid-sentence, and you speak about breach of parliamentary decorum? Make that make sense, because me I try to understand what you mean. How me if you talk and you cut off me, how me if you talk and you cut off my mic mid-sentence? That's disrespectful. There is no decorum in cutting off someone's mic during mid-sentence. You talk about standing order. The question is not in line with the statement where Matthew Samuda did make, so you're not abiding by the standing orders. That's all Holness I talk about and I defend. Then she have the nerve to come and talk about say, the walkout undermines the interest of the Jamaican people. Like what? And the original question was raised by Christopher Brown, and Juliet Holness noted that the question was out of order and not in accordance with the standing orders. So me don't know what she talk about a breach of parliamentary decorum. Me can't even finish my statement or finish ask me question properly and you cut off my mic. Very disrespectful. There is no decorum in that. Very distasteful. You, Speaker of the House, Juliet Holness, you undermine the interest of the people of Jamaica. Don't try deflect and put that on the PMP. You and the Holness administration are the one them where undermine the interests of the Jamaican people. Juliet Holness, the real breach of parliamentary decorum and the real person who is out of order is you as House Speaker or appointed House Speaker by your husband Andrew Holness, who is the Prime Minister and leader of the government. To me, that is out of order. To me, you're not supposed to be Speaker of the House if your husband is the Prime Minister. That more look like a breach of parliamentary decorum to me. So, patriotic comrades, Matthew Samuda made a statement to the House. You see me? Basically, I update the public on Tropical Storm Melissa and the preparation being undertaken by the government. See? Now, opposition comrade for St. Mary Eastern MP Christopher Brown just want to ask Samuda about previous landslides and outstanding payments to contractors, but immediately he get a pushback from Holness and some government MPs. Zin, them start argue say asking questions unrelated to Samuda's statement is not in keeping with parliamentaries or parliament's standing orders, Zin, which no make no sense. Immediately you ask a valid, legitimate question, then want shut you down and silence you and lock off your mic. Basically, I bully you and call you down in a parliamentary style. You see me? That to me come like parliamentary bullyism. At the end of the day, we are all adults in here. We are not a picnic. How dare you tell me to shut up and sit down and I lock off my mic? You're bright. Each time Comrade Christopher Brown attempt to ask the question, he mic just a cut off. Then just a cut off he mic. Just a cut off he mic. And he was reminded by Holness again to observe the standing orders. So immediately, opposition members came to his defense. Julian Robinson stepped up, who attempted to also ask the question of Samuda, and he was stopped in a theme tracks. Then a theme microphone get cut off. So now them start rub all of the opposition comrade MPs now, them rub them the wrong way, including our integrity boss, our one Marky G, who immediately disagreed with Holness and pressed for questions to be put to Samuda. So even Marky G start apply pressure. But the only thing Holness and the government defend is the question is not in keeping with the standing orders. And the questioning or the line of questioning would not be allowed. So Marky G and the other opposition MPs accused Holness of unfairly shutting down members on their side. And immediately Marky G them walk out. Patriotic comrades, the walk out there was a metaphorical middle finger. It was a metaphorical GSYM. Yes, symbolically it was all of that. It's just because they can't, say it or put up or flip the finger physically and say what they want to say verbally, but trust me, metaphorically, that away the walkout I say. You see me? Just imagine if they could have said what really depend on their mind. Yeah, but the bad word would I get blast to the JLP them. You see me? But them have to keep it civil, polished, well spoken lords and ladies in the House of Parliament. Keep it civil. Opposition leader Mark Golding has criticized as undemocratic House Speaker Juliet Holness's management of the affairs of the Parliament. Can we talk about the moment Juliet Holness cut the mic mid-sentence. That was wild. Timestamp your favorite WTH just happened moment in the comment section. Patriotic comrades, so what do you do about it? If you believe in accountability, transparency, and democracy in Jamaica, smash that like button. If you want more deep dives like this, hit subscribe and ring the bell. And most importantly, share this video with someone who thinks politics in Jamaica doesn't affect them, because it absolutely does. On screen now, you will see two videos. One, my breakdown of the Paul Buchanan election challenge, and two, a look at Comrade Donna Scott Motley blasting Andrew Holness. Click one, click both, keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp.
The opposition is being prevented deliberately from asking pertinent questions relating to what the minister has said in his statement. This is a thwarting of the democracy. It makes a mockery of the parliament, and it's an abuse of the powers of the speaker. And we want Jamaica as a whole to be very aware of the threat to our democracy that is posed when the parliament's rules are interpreted and applied in a way that prevents the opposition from being an effective opposition carrying out their duty to the public under the Constitution to hold the government accountable. Question after question was prevented from being asked. I myself had my microphone turned off when I was raising a submission to the Speaker as to why the manner in which she was conducting the proceedings was improper, irregular, unparliamentary, and thwarting the democracy of the country, and should not continue. She shut us down, and we felt compelled to respond by taking ourselves out. We didn't have any other recourse at the time, but we will be considering other approaches going forward. We don't intend to absent ourselves from proceedings as a general practice. That is a last resort, and there are other things that we're considering as to how we can respond. But Jamaica needs to be aware of the threat to the democracy that is being posed by the parliament being conducted in the way it was today. This is a pending storm, there's already flooding in parts of the corporate area, no doubt elsewhere. People are already being severely inconvenienced and no doubt are in danger as motorists and commuters and pedestrians as well. And we as the opposition are asking pertinent questions like, what resources are being provided to members of parliament to put the necessary measures in place to protect our citizens? There may be drains that need to be cleared. There may be vulnerable people that need to have some kind of food support. You know, and these questions were not allowed to be asked. We can't function like this as a democracy, and we must stand up to it. There's one other point we want to make, which is to do with the way in which the Speaker is operating concerning the scheduling of who can ask questions when. So there's this new microphone system. It's about how old now, would you say?
About 2 years.
About 2 years old, which she controls as Speaker. And today she issued some kind of ruling as to how we are to conduct ourselves going forward. She wants us to raise our hands like children in a classroom when we want to ask questions. The microphone has a sequencing feature to it, so that people who want to ask a question press the button, it turns on a green light, and when you're recognized by the Speaker, the light turns red, and the mic is then open, and you can speak. That is not the system that she wants to deploy. Instead, she wants us to raise our hands, and when we catch our eye, she can decide who should speak and what. If she catches our eye, she will decide who can speak and when. That is not in the standing orders. That is not in the rules of the House. And again, it represents another co-option by the Speaker of authority which the rules don't give her as to how the proceedings of the House should be conducted. And we're very concerned about that as well.
This afternoon, the opposition felt it necessary to demonstrate our absolute disgust in the manner in which the proceedings of the House of Representatives are being conducted by the current Speaker. This arose out of a statement by Minister at the beginning of the proceeding, statement which was delivered by Minister Matthew Samuda. And it was a statement to apprise the nation of the impending tropical storm Melissa and seeking to suggest the need for readiness on the part of the people of Jamaica and giving the people of Jamaica an update as to what the government intends to do to make the country ready for this storm and the aftermath of the storm. Having made that statement, which touched and concerned not only issues relating to the climate and climate change, but also, in his own words, he was speaking on behalf of Minister Desmond McKenzie, the Minister of Local Government who has responsibility for disaster preparedness, who is overseas. And he said that he had authority from Minister McKenzie to speak on his behalf as well. In response to the statement, attempts were made by opposition members to ask questions, that is a procedure, a normal procedure provided for in the standing orders of the House. However, on each occasion, the Speaker refused to hear the complete question that was sought to be posed by the member and purported to shut the member down, turning off the member's mic repeatedly before hearing the complete question. It began with the question being posed by the Member of Parliament for St. Mary South East, who, on having made several attempts to ask his question, was refused the opportunity to complete the question. Up to now, I'm not sure what that question sought to ask. Subsequently, the member for Central Westmoreland rose to ask a question, namely, what resources, what allocation was going to be made available so that the necessary preparations for this pending disaster could be made. That was ruled out of order, despite the fact that the statement was all about the impending disaster and the preparations that the government was seeking to make. At this point, and this was a very confused and lengthy set of proceedings, at this point I rose to complain and state that I was protesting the manner in which the Speaker was conducting the proceedings of the House. And in the course of saying what I had to say, and specifically the fact that the questions were not allowed to be asked, or when they were asked, they were ruled as not being relevant, my mic was turned off, and I was not able to complete what I was saying. Clearly, the Speaker has no intention of allowing the opposition to pose questions and to play our constitutional role of holding the government accountable for their performance. This is unacceptable to us, and we had to absent ourselves from the rest of the proceedings. And we will, of course, going forward, have to adopt different approaches to respond to this, because the people of Jamaica have elected us to represent them and defend their interests. And we cannot let this Speaker manage the affairs of the House in a way that prevents us from doing our duty. It's a very distressing situation for the country and its democracy, and it's one that we ask people to take very seriously, because if the opposition cannot ask questions that relate to the statement being made by the minister, and where a preemptive strike against the question is being launched by the Speaker without actually hearing the complete question, it means that the Parliament is not being allowed to function in the way that a democracy requires. And this is a totally unacceptable state of affairs, which we cannot allow to go on without addressing it in a very forceful way.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Members, there is a question from the Leader of Opposition, the member from St. Andrew South.
I'm very concerned by the way in which the proceedings are being conducted. We are attempting to ask questions. We are attempting to ask questions arising from the statement. The statement was a wide-ranging statement. It not only touched and concerned the specific minister's portfolio, he also said he was speaking on behalf of the Minister of Local Government, who is overseas, who has direct responsibility for disaster preparedness. On more than one occasion, the member on this side who was sought to ask a question has been prevented from completing the question, and instead a point of order has been taken which I don't know what the ruling was, or you yourself have intervened to prevent the statement, the question from being asked. Yes. I want to know what the question was that the member for South East St. Mary was seeking to ask. I don't know what his question is.
Member. If we have no other questions, announcements. Announcements.